an oil leak that's on the transmission of this Nissan Xtrail, right? So the 2017 model to 2021, I believe, or 20, has a fault, right, where the oil is leaking on the transmission, and I'm going to show you exactly where it's leaking. So let me remove all these components and I'm going to show you exactly what's up. I'm going to remove the battery completely off this vehicle so I can gain access to the area where the oil is suspected to be leaking. So let's take this out. Just gonna rest that here. I'll move this bracket from here. I tend not to leave tools on top of vehicles when I'm working because, you know, you don't want to drop one down between here. Also, you don't want to leave your tools on vehicles while you're working. It's basically not a good habit to have. So let's blast these bolts out. And let's see exactly what's going on and where this oil is dripping on the transmission. It doesn't look like it's coming from the tappet pan cover gasket because I did replace that some weeks ago on this vehicle, and now the oil is returned and it's right there. Okay, so I did mention to the customer that it's possible that the thermostat housing is leaking. He said, you know, it have to be that because you're not sure exactly where it's coming from, but I guarantee it's coming from there. So let's see if we can get these things out so we can be free to work. Let's see, let's push this tab down. Let's take this transmission module out. Right here, I'm gonna just use pliers and let's remove this from here as well. And let's take this out. Just gonna move the TCM out. I like to work free as possible. I got my boy Cameron right there. He's working on this Benz rig. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing, but I know I need to get access to this. So I need to remove all these things from here. Okay, let's take this out. You just gotta take your time and assess things, you know. Alright, so that's out. Alright, so what we see in here is engine oil is right on top of the transmission. So you gotta ask yourself exactly where can the oil be coming from that's dropping on the transmission and is rolling to the rear of the engine. Go after this thermostat housing. I'm gonna take this here. Do I need a special tool for this? I don't think I do, but and once I get that off, I'm going to remove the sensor and we're going to remove this thermostat housing. That seems to be the fault why the oil is leaking. Right, so let's continue.
I might let a hater slide on a good day. I'm just trying to catch a vibe, can you feel me? Long as we living our lives, then it's okay. Everything is okay. I might let a hater slide on a good day.
Get this sensor off. This is the temperature sensor. So you gotta remove the sensor. It also has a little washer on it that needs to stay on as it's gonna leak. Right, so now I'm able to get access to the thermostat housing where I need to remove all these bolts. Right, so we have how many bolts? Probably like 5 or 6 bolts that we gotta replace.
Can't let them trick me at my spot, I got a lot at stake. Constantly checking my ego, doing what it takes. They might dinner play a spirit, but I'll never break. God got me, they hate me, but still watch me. No fly zone, but I'm having an out of body. Young Riley, better known as I move wisely. Can't knock the hustle is deep inside of me. I might let a hater slide on a good day. I'm just trying to catch a vibe, can you feel me? Long as we living our lives, then it's okay. Everything is okay. I might let a hater slide on a good day. I'm just trying to catch a vibe, can you feel me? Long as we living our lives, then it's okay. Everything is okay. Stacking money to the ceiling and depend on how I'm feeling. I might pull up and buy a couple baskets for the building. For them it ain't no limit, cause you know I love the children.
Before we put the housing back on, we're gonna just clean up the area, make sure all the oil is cleaned up and everything is, you know, looking good before we assemble the thermostat housing. I'm also going to replace the thermostat housing and the thermostat as well. This is thermostat, this is the number right here, and we got our hands on fresh housing. So you see you got this lip right here on this gasket, and this one is flush, it's flat. So big difference. Okay, you got a little ridge right here, and this one we have nothing. And when I was removing the gasket from here, it was basically, you know, it just broke. So we're gonna clean that up and we're gonna put this on. So this is an aftermarket housing that the customer supplied. Right, so we see this ridge right here, the way it is. You can tell it really is aftermarket. Button up this thermostat housing. Right, so I'm going to use a 1/4" ratchet because you don't want to apply too much force on this plastic. Right, so you just gotta give it a little pull here and there. Right, ensure that just to ensure that the gasket is compressed. Okay, so we just gonna pull on it real quick here. You don't need to torque this because it's not that critical, but you do have to ensure that you apply enough force via the bolt to compress the gasket. So he was not losing any coolant, but he was definitely have a lot of oily thing going on right here. So again, this is an aftermarket part that we are using, so you don't want to exceed your tightening value or your torque value if you had one. You just want to pull on the bolts a little bit. Alright, so we got 5 bolts that we need to tighten, and that's it. That's upon the clamps and the holes, and button everything up, making sure that it's not leaking. Fair enough? Good. So we're gonna start with this one here. I don't like how this hose is looking, but let's see. If we put this here, all right, so let's go, and we're gonna open this up a little bit. All right, let's put the clamp here a little bit, and we're gonna push it in like that, and just squeeze that clamp there. Good. Next, we're gonna put this one on. Also here. Okay, let's put this down here as well. So we are not going to replace the lower thermostat because the customer said he replaced that a while. Well, he's not sure exactly how long. I think he said last year, so we're not going to touch that one. But they didn't know they had one also up here. So that's the one we just replaced. So I'm just gonna get these hose clamps on. I'm gonna put the vehicle on, read the system, and that should be it. So what we gotta do is put all these things back together. Alright, so let's secure the bolts for the transmission module. So, gotta put the handles back together. Okay, so what we're going to do is ensure that we have no water in this cooling system as much as we can. So I'm just flushing the reservoir bottle out right here. But I'm going to call this definitely a fix. If you have a Nissan T32 Xtrail, or aka Nissan Rogue, right, and you see any oil accumulating on top of the transmission, you should take a look at that thermostat, because the gasket tends to be compromised after a while, right? I mean, just sum it up to age. All right, so you see me just pouring some coolant and using the no spill kit to bleed the system. And yeah, that's it, man. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment down in the box, hit that bell notification for more content by your boy DJ. But other than that, yeah, stay cool, stay up, and peace. You know how we do. Until next time, peace.